is Lebogang Madise. I'm a product marketing manager at Microsoft. And today I'm going to show you how you can host your web app for free on Azure and keep it up to date by making use of GitHub Actions as a build pipeline from GitHub to Azure. So I know this week a lot of you learned how to either build Blazor apps, or you have a lot of web-based projects on your GitHub. But if someone wants to see what you're working on and they're not a developer, giving them a GitHub repo doesn't really help them very much. So typically what they do is they navigate to your repo, and this is what they'll see, and they're like, oh, where do I start? So hopefully this would be like a friendly way for you to show off your work and get feedback as well as user experience from people without having to necessarily direct them to your GitHub. And also, if you're looking for open source contributors, I found that sometimes people want to know what your web app does first before they volunteer to contribute to it. So this is like a really quick way to do it. And I've made the session very step by step. So if you want to follow on your side, by all means, please do join me. It's fast, it's quick, and it's very friendly. The only thing you'll need is an Azure subscription. The free tier also works, as well as a GitHub account. So let's get started. By the way, I learned something cool during Isaac's session, and I was quickly creating my own URL doing this. So this is on my GitHub, but I've created like a user-friendly URL so that you can get the stuff afterwards. So let's get started. So please log into your Azure portal. So navigate to azure.microsoft.com. And then once you are there, you can click on, sometimes if you don't see app services at the top, I'm going to navigate you to what you'll see even if you're logging into Azure for the first time. So click on Quick Start Center. And once you click on Quick Start Center, you'll see a couple of options. So there's a Create a Web App option, which is the one that we're going to select. And then once you click on that option, you'll be presented with two options. One is build and host a web app with Azure Web Apps. And another one is create code integration / code deployment pipeline with Azure DevOps projects. So the second option is more appealing to people who've already invested in Azure DevOps or whose teams at work make use of Azure DevOps. But if you're like me and you use GitHub for everything, and you already have your web app or your Blazor website on GitHub already, then the first option is the one that you should choose. So I'm going to click on Create. And then under Subscription, you're going to select your subscription. If you're using the free tier of Azure, you'll see that subscription as the default one. But if you, like me, where you're part of an organization that offers you a Visual Studio Enterprise subscription, you'll see it there. And if you have another paid subscription that you want to make use of, you can just click on the drop down and select it. And then you will need a resource group. So how many of you are new on Azure? Okay, so I don't want to assume everybody has used Azure before. So what a resource group is that any service that you are going to build on needs to be attached to a resource group, and each resource group belongs to a regional location. So we've got availability zones all over the world. South Africa also has, the US has multiple ones because of how big it is. So if you don't have a resource group, you can simply create a new one and give it a unique name. What I do as a best practice is that I append any resource group that I create with RG so that I know it's a resource group, because sometimes your projects become so big, you end up not knowing what's what. So I'll call this one DevReach -RG, and it's available. Okay, so that's my resource group. And then I'm not gonna create a database because the workshop is literally just about having the web app run on Azure for free, and I'll show you evidence. So 11 months ago, I did this for the first time, and I haven't touched that project just to monitor it every month to really make sure that it's not costing me anything, and I will show that to you at the end. So you need to give your web app a name, and whatever name you provided, it will be the URL name of this web app. So think back to when there was a bubble with regards to WordPress sites where you would give it a name and it would be that name.wordpress. It's the same thing here. Whatever web app you provide, the web app name you provide, it will be that name.azurewebsites.net. And because it's the free tier, that's what I'm gonna stick with. But you can take it a step further and provide a custom URL, which now goes into the payment tier option. So I'm gonna call this one Lebo, which is my name. Oh, it's not available. Lebogang. My goodness. Okay, my full name is available. .azurewebsites.net, and then it asks you. By the way, in case you can't see, let me just zoom in. And then it asks you what it is you want to publish. Do you want to publish code, a Docker container, or a static web app? And I'm clicking on code. And this works whether you have code local to your machine or on your GitHub repo. And then you can choose your runtime stack. So for the .NET runtime, it's supported from ASP.NET version 3.5 all the way to .NET 7, which is in preview. I'm going to choose .NET 6, which is the latest stable supported version. But then if you have code that's written in Java, you can choose that, or if you have a Node.js application, you can choose that. So this is really around the runtime stack of your app. So I'm going to choose .NET because I'm going to use a Blazor app as an example. And then I'm choosing Windows as the OS, and then this is where now it becomes really important. You need to choose a region. So I would advocate that you choose one that's closest to you. So it could be West US, East US. I don't really know the US very well. So I'm gonna go to South Africa and choose South Africa North. And then, let's see. Okay, and then I'm on the free tier. You can upgrade if you want. And then the zone redundancy is disabled if you are on the free tier. Before you click on review and create, I'm gonna just go into the deployment details. You can do them at the end if you want, but I really like doing this as part of the step. So this is where you now connect your GitHub repo to your web app. And I'm gonna say enable continuous deployment. And then, so I'm already logged, I've already linked my GitHub account to my Azure account, but let's pretend it wasn't linked. So I'm just gonna click on change account just to show you what you'd expect as a walkthrough when you're linking your GitHub account to your Azure account. So you would need to give it permissions where you are authorizing Azure App Service to be able to create, to be able to access your GitHub account. And then you say which repositories you'd want it to have access to. So for me, I gave it access to both public and private repositories. And another thing that I tested, right? I'll show you in GitHub. The Blazor WebApp that I have is in a private repo on GitHub, but it has a public site on Azure. So meaning sometimes you don't want to expose your code behind to the public, but you want to show them the end results. This still works, and it's still valid under the free tier. So give it all the authorization stuff that is required. You may need to authenticate using your authenticator app if your GitHub is if it has two-factor authentication. So I'm going to close that because I'm happy with the account that I've linked it to. And then it's a private account, so I'm going to use my normal Fruitimo account, not the work one. And then you're going to need to select the repository. So this assumes that you want to already apply actions to a repository that's already existing on your GitHub. In my instance, that is the truth. The one that I want to link is Blazor app, right? And you can do this for anything. So let me actually pause here a little bit and show you. So LSR, I discovered, so I was just looking at how many Blazor apps are there on GitHub. And I actually found that LSR has a Blazor to-do list app. So I figured, hey, if I'm going to show people that this works, I can actually show them with someone else's repo and actually host that as a Azure website. She's going to kill me for this because it's not really finished, but I'm going to fork it. And yeah. Stolen from LSR. Okay, so I've now forked this. It's in my GitHub repo. I'm going to navigate back to Azure and then choose that repository. So let me just maybe so that it refreshes. Cool. There, Blazor to-do list. It's now loaded. Okay, and then I'm happy with everything. I'm gonna click next. Okay, I'm just gonna say review and create. Okay, everything looks good, and then I'm gonna click create. It takes about 2 minutes, and then it should deploy successfully. So let's just wait. Any questions so far? Okay, so it has deployed. Okay, not yet. Deployment is still in progress. And if you're like me and you are literally new on Blazor, meaning you just know the basics, just by looking at someone's repo like this, you don't know how much is done, how much is not done. This is like the perfect way to like test it out quickly. Although you can do it local on your machine and just run it there, So let's do that as well. So let's see. Let me close this. I actually did this earlier, but let's see. Wait. Let me be patient. Okay. I was quickly cloning it because I want to show you the changes once we start making them later on. And let me also just go back and see. Yes, the deployment is complete. So now I wanna, let me just zoom out quickly. So the deployment is complete. And then what I wanna do is, okay, I'm gonna quickly go to the resource. And then what I'm gonna do is, oh no, okay, snap. This is not gonna run because I've exceeded my quota. The best way I can get it to run is moving from the free tier, which kind of defeats the whole purpose because I wanted. Okay, let me do this. Let me choose something that's not as resource intensive. I've got a very static web app on GitHub that shouldn't charge anything. But for now, let me just upgrade this one because it's not gonna run, like it's not gonna deploy at all. Let me actually show you the error message that you'll see because it has successfully deployed. So if I'm gonna click on a new tab, if I go to Lebogang Azure websites, you'll see this because I've exceeded my quota. And then if you want to know where, like in a couple of hours, it will reset. So the quota is like for a day. Yeah, but if it was a static app, I wouldn't exceed my quota. It's just, yeah, I need to investigate Alice's to-do list because this happened earlier and I was like, Anyway, let me just change this. But if you're doing it on your side, it should work immediately. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go back. Okay, so this is good. Okay, I'm gonna choose the cheapest one. Because I've maxed out the free tier compute time for the day. Okay, it's updating, and it has updated successfully. So now let me just go back to my deployment, and then if I refresh this, it shouldn't have an error 403 anymore. And another thing, if I go to my GitHub, right, and I go to actions, as you can see here, the action had failed because of my maxed out compute, but now this should be fine. So I'm gonna rerun. Actually, I'm gonna rerun all the jobs. And it's currently building. Okay, now we wait. But usually it's like really super fast. And you could see it's gonna turn green once the deployment has been built and deployed successfully. So the build has to be green first before the deployment can start. It should be under a minute, so let's see. Come on. Okay, while we wait, any questions? Anyone trying this out? I'm also just gonna check my Azure portal quickly. Yes, so over here it looks good. Oh, and over here it looks good. So what I did is I went onto Azure. Let me just go to home, and then let me go back to my web app. Remember, I named the web app after myself, Lebogang, and the actual URL is lebogang.azurewebsites.net, and that leads to this page, right? And then it says my web app is running and waiting for my content. Remember, the content is from GitHub. So once this deployment, the build and deploy, the deployment is done, then you should see, let me put it side by side. Ooh, the build is done, yay. Took 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Usually it's much faster. And now it's deploying. So I'm just gonna snap. Yeah, so once this is green, this over here, this over here is gonna have Alice's to-do list app. So let's just wait. It's deploying to production. And what I like about this is that once all of this is done, you technically never have to open your Azure portal again. You can just do your code as you do it normally in Visual Studio, push it to GitHub, and those changes in under a minute will reflect on your live site. And also what I like about this is that GitHub takes care of the actual testing of your deployments. You know, if there's something wrong, it will fail. So it's sort of like a protective layer for you instead of you always pushing directly onto the live side and then you hear from people saying, oh, it's down, you know. So it's like a protective layer. Yay! I'm gonna zoom in quickly. As you can see, deployment in 42 seconds has been done successfully. So I'm gonna go here and refresh. Just as an FYI, I didn't log on to the presenter's Wi-Fi network, so I don't know if that influences anything. And here is Alice's to-do app. It works. And you can add stuff. Stuff 1. Thing 2. And it works. I don't know what Backstreet Bakery to do is, so I'm gonna go onto my oh my gosh. I'm gonna go onto the project. Let's see what happened here. Okay, something crazy happened. Let me just close and reopen. And then I'm gonna go to pages, to do. And then the only thing I'm gonna do is just rename Backstreet Bakery to do to say DevReach Progress 360 to do. I'm gonna save it and then I'm gonna push it in. Hold on. And then I'm gonna say to do name, title, change. And then I'm gonna commit and push. Okay, and then once that's done, I'm gonna go here. Let me zoom out. And then it's gonna, I'm not gonna do anything. It's actually going to kick into GitHub and notice that, hey, there's been a change. And then a minute later, it's gonna rerun the job. So let me just navigate away and go to actions again. See, my push can be seen from my history of the workflows, and the name of the commit, the name of the workflow is actually the commit message, as you can see. And it says it was done a minute ago and it's currently in progress. The minute that this is done, it's gonna show on the live site. So because we are literally waiting for it, it looks like it's taking long, but it's usually really quite fast. So it's gonna build the project and then do a deployment, and then it's done. So that's what I had prepared to show you today, and I hope you get to try this and do it. And I'm also going to show you my history, because I've got another app, a Blazor WebApp. It's a very static website, and I've been tracking it for 11 months. I'm just waiting for one more month so that I can have that 12-month spreadsheet that shows that it wasn't charging me anything, so that people can feel comfortable to host their stuff for free. This is taking a bit long. Now the build is on 2 minutes. Okay, but while we wait, let me just see. So I do want to ask if you could please give me some feedback to help me improve. It is case sensitive, weirdly enough. So yeah, so go to spo.ms/give-label-feedback. And all of these instructions, I literally wrote them as I was sitting there, like, because sometimes when you follow tutorials, it can get really complicated really fast. So what I did was I literally wrote the instructions as how I speak, so it should be easy to follow. But if there's anything that could be confusing, please don't hesitate to contact me and I will improve this. So I literally wrote all the steps as you would need to do it, like, for example, navigate to Azure and then log in, go to the Quick Start Center wizard, click on Create a Web App, and then things that you would expect. So all the instructions are in bullet forms, and all the extra information that I share is outside the bullet forms. So if you want to just do stuff, follow the instructions where there's a bullet. And this works for any framework. So whether you're a Ruby developer, Node.js developer, or Java developer, it works. And you don't even have to hassle around Azure. It would take care of all your infrastructure stuff. Yeah. So let's see. Okay, the build has been built successfully, and now it's deploying to production. And because this is pipeline based, right? You could go really crazy with GitHub Actions and set up different deployment stages. You could have like a test deployment area instead of always deploying to production. So now it's ready, and I'm gonna refresh. There. Don't tell her I did this. But thank you. And I've got some stickers if you want some. Thank you. That's it from me.